Antwerp residents are told to conserve village water. 7 News reporter Chad Charette tells us more about a short-term disruption at the water tower, with officials hoping that it will have long-term benefits.
It's going to be a busy week at Antwerp's water tower. Hoses are spewing, machines are whirring, and workers have their hands full.
It's just a general preventative maintenance cleaning.
What does that maintenance entail? For the next several days, those workers will be cleaning the inside of the tower, resealing components, and installing new anodes to combat an issue with excess minerals, also known as hard water.
By being able to do this and the minor inconvenience that it is causing, it's going to be able to ensure the longevity of our water tower.
Those inconveniences, lower water pressure, and folks have been asked to conserve. You might be wondering what that means for organizations that rely on gallons of the stuff, like Antwerp's fire department. Well, here's what the chief has to say.
The effect, if we do have a fire, is going to be minimal.
Here's why. Although access to municipal water from hydrants is limited, there's no need to conserve when it's being drawn directly from the Indian River. There's a dry hydrant for that.
It's a good size pipe, so it does produce a lot of water when you need it.
The department also has a 2,700-gallon tanker on standby.
If we do have a small situation, we can take care of it easily, but if the situation escalates or if it's a larger scale operation, then we adapt.
The mayor tells us the disruption should only last for around a week. Once the work is complete, residents can expect their water pressure to return to normal. Chad Charette, 7 News.